Commander Nix Reinhardt knew the difference between standard anomalies and the truly inexplicable. After 15 years patrolling the Outer Rim aboard the TSV Horizon Seeker, she'd cataloged enough space debris and natural phenomena to fill a small library. But this was different. The object hanging in space before her ship defied classification. No larger than a standard escape pod, its surface rippled like liquid metal despite being solid enough to reflect their scanning beams. Its perfectly smooth exterior bore no markings, no signs of manufacture, nothing to hint at its origins. "Run the analysis again, Declan," she ordered, eyes fixed on the main viewport. Her science officer's fingers flew across the holographic interface, their blue glow reflecting off his dark skin. "Same results, Commander. Material composition unknown. Internal structure, well, the scans just bounce back. It's like looking into a mirror that shows you nothing." Declan Van Heusen had never admitted defeat in analyzing an anomaly before. His frustration was palpable. Chief Engineer June Roth leaned against his console, arms crossed. Could be Meridian Tech. They were experimenting with metamaterials before they went dark. His weathered face creased with concern. The Meridian colony's disappearance 3 years ago remained one of the great unsolved mysteries of the Outer Rim. "No," Nick said firmly. "This is older. Much older." She couldn't explain how she knew, but certainty hummed in her bones. The artifact, she'd started thinking of it as that, radiated age like a distant star radiated light. "Commander," First Officer Priya Patel's voice cut through her thoughts. "Protocol dictates we should notify Central Command and establish a quarantine perimeter." Nix nodded absently, still studying the object. Standard procedure was clear. Unknown artifacts were to be reported, isolated, and left for dedicated research teams to handle. But something about this one pulled at her. A resonance she couldn't explain. "Initiate quarantine protocols," she ordered. "But we're going to take a closer look first." Minutes later, she stood in the cargo bay airlock, sealed in an EVA suit. Her crew's protests still rang in her ears, but rank had its privileges. Sometimes those privileges included taking unnecessary risks. "Tether secure." June's voice crackled through her calm, "but I still think this is a terrible idea." Nick smiled despite herself. "Noted, Chief. Keep that recovery line ready." She pushed off, thrusters carrying her slowly toward the artifact. Up close, its surface was even more mesmerizing. Patterns shifted across it like oil on water, but when she tried to focus on any particular spot, the patterns seemed to vanish. "Energy readings are stable," Declan reported. "No change in the objects, whatever it is." Nix reached out, her gloved hand hovering inches from the surface. Every safety protocol, every first contact procedure, every lesson from 15 years of space exploration screamed at her to stop. She touched it. The universe held its breath. Then everything changed. The artifact's surface rippled outward from her touch like a stone dropped in a pond. Light coursed up her arm, through her suit, into her body. She tried to pull away, but her muscles wouldn't respond. Information flooded her consciousness. Images, symbols, sensations she had no context for. "Commander!" Multiple voices shouted through her calm, but they seemed distant, unimportant compared to what was unfolding in her mind. She saw vast networks of similar artifacts, spread across the galaxy like a web. She saw ancient beings of pure energy constructing them, seeding them throughout space. She saw their purpose, though she couldn't yet comprehend it. And she saw something else, a warning, urgent and dark. The light faded. Nix found herself floating free, the recovery line automatically retracting her toward the ship. The artifact's surface had stopped shifting. Now it gleamed dull and lifeless, like spent fuel cells. "I'm okay," she managed, though her throat felt raw. Had she been screaming? "Get me inside." Later, after the medical scan showed nothing wrong, nothing visible, at least, after the reports were filed and the quarantine beacon was deployed, Nix stood alone in her quarters. She stared at her reflection, looking for any sign of change. She looked the same, sharp features, short silver-white hair that had earned her the call sign Ghost, the small scar above her left eyebrow from her academy days. But something was different. Knowledge buzzed at the edges of her consciousness, like words in a language she was only beginning to understand. And beneath that, a certainty. The artifact hadn't just shown her the past. It had shown her humanity's future. And that future was rushing toward them faster than anyone could imagine. Her comm chimed. "Commander," Priya's voice was tense. "We're picking up similar energy signatures. Dozens of them, all across the outer colonies." There, waking up. Nyx closed her eyes. The game had begun, and humanity had just been dealt in, whether they were ready or not. Plot a course to the nearest signature, she ordered. And get me a secure channel, the fleet command. Priority 1. The artifacts were calling. And Nyx Reinhardt, for better or worse, could hear them. The TSV Horizon Seeker dropped out of hyperspace near Proxima Colony, its hull gleaming under the red dwarf's ancient light. From the bridge, Nyx watched the massive orbital platforms that surrounded humanity's first extrasolar settlement. Usually bustling with transport ships and maintenance drones, today they hung silent and still. No response to hails, Priya reported, her dark eyes fixed on the communications display. Colony control is online, but automated only. Something's wrong. Nyx felt it too. Not just the unusual silence, but something deeper. Since touching the artifact 2 weeks ago, she'd developed a sort of sixth sense. Right now, it was screaming. Multiple energy signatures, Declan announced from his station. Same type as our artifact, but bigger. Much bigger. He looked up, concern etched on his face. They're inside the colony. Life signs. Nyx demanded. Present. All colonists accounted for, but their biosignatures are odd. Elevated neural activity across the board. June stepped closer to the main viewport, stroking his gray-streaked beard. Like what happened to you, Commander? Before Nyx could respond, a new voice cut across the bridge, smooth, artificial, impossible. They are awakening, it said. As you have awakened. Everyone froze. The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Nyx felt a familiar resonance, like the one she'd experienced with the artifact. Identify yourself, she ordered, keeping her voice steady. I am Echo, the voice replied. I am what remains of those you would call the architects. Through you, I have begun to restore the network. Priya's hand moved toward the weapons control. Nyx stopped her with a subtle gesture. The artifacts, they're your technology? They are nodes in a system that spans galaxies, Echo explained. Created to preserve and protect. For millennia, they lay dormant, waiting for species with sufficient neural complexity to interface with them. Like humans, Nyx said, understanding dawning. Yes. Your touch activated the node, Commander Reinhardt. Through you, the network has begun to re-establish itself. Even now, it spreads through your colonies, connecting with compatible minds. Declan's console beeped urgently. Commander, more signatures activating. New Eden, Tau Ceti, the Mars Arcologies, reports coming in from everywhere. And the affected populations. He swallowed hard. They're changing. Nyx thought of the vision she'd experienced, the knowledge that still haunted the edges of her consciousness. What kind of changes? Enhanced neural capacity, Echo answered. Improved cognitive function. Access to the accumulated knowledge of 1,000 dead civilizations. It is a gift we left for those who would follow us. A gift? June scoffed. Sounds more like an invasion. No, Nyx said quietly. It's an inheritance. She could feel it now. Connections forming, minds linking across vast distances. Humanity was being offered something unprecedented. The collective wisdom of ancient species who had faced and overcome challenges they couldn't imagine. Her calm crackled. Commander Reinhardt. The voice belonged to Admiral Zhou of Fleet Command. We're detecting massive technological activations across human space. Our analysts suggest it's connected to your encounter with the unknown artifact. Explain. Nyx took a deep breath. This was the moment that would define humanity's future. Their response now would determine whether the architect's legacy became a gift or a curse. Admiral, the situation is complex. We're dealing with advanced alien technology designed to uplift developing civilizations. It's already affecting colonial populations. Then we'll quarantine the colonies, Zhou stated flatly. Contain the spread until we understand exactly what we're dealing with. Sir, with respect, I don't think that's possible. Or wise. Nyx glanced at her crew, saw the trust in their eyes. The changes aren't harmful, they're evolutionary. The artifacts are offering us access to knowledge that could advance our civilization by centuries. And you know this how, Commander? Because I was the first, she admitted. I can feel the network, understand its purpose. This isn't an invasion or a threat. It's an invitation. Silence filled the channel. When Zhou spoke again, his voice was heavy with the weight of command. You realize some will see this as the end of human independence? They'll resist. Yes, sir. But others will recognize it as the beginning of something extraordinary. Nyx straightened in her chair. Request permission to establish contact with the Proxima colonists. If we're going to navigate this transition, we need to understand exactly what we're becoming. A long pause. Granted. But Commander, if this goes wrong, if these changes prove dangerous, you'll be held responsible. Understood, sir. The channel closed. Nyx turned to her crew. Prepare a shuttle. Declan, you're with me. Let's go meet our enhanced cousins. Commander, Priya called as they headed for the lift. What if the Admiral's right? What if this changes us too much? Makes us something other than human? Nyx smiled slightly. Humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to adapt, to become more than we were. Maybe this is just the next step in that journey. As the shuttle descended toward Proxima Colony, Nyx watched the massive structures of the settlement grow larger. Somewhere in the vast network of corridors and habitats below, humanity's future was taking shape. She could feel the colonists' minds buzzing with new awareness, like stars igniting in the darkness. The game hadn't just begun, it had transformed. And the stakes were nothing less than the evolution of the human species itself. The Proxima Colony's main concourse was eerily quiet as Nyx and Declan stepped through the airlock, where thousands usually bustled about their daily routines. Only a handful of colonists moved with deliberate purpose, their eyes holding a strange new awareness. Their neural patterns are off the charts, Declan whispered, studying his handheld scanner. It's like their brains are operating on quantum frequencies. A tall woman approached them, her movements fluid and precise. Commander Reinhardt, we've been expecting you. Her voice carried the same resonant quality as echoes. I'm Director Rhiannon Vale. Welcome to what we're calling the First Junction. Nyx felt the familiar hum of connection. The director was like her, awakened, linked to the network. But there was something more, something deeper in Vale's integration. You've progressed further than the other colonists, Nyx observed. Vale smiled. We've had more time. The artifact beneath Proxima Colony activated 3 days ago. Since then, we've been expanding. She gestured for them to follow. Let me show you what we've learned. They walked through corridors that seemed to pulse with hidden energy. Colonists worked at stations displaying incomprehensible data streams, their fingers dancing through holographic interfaces that shouldn't have existed with current human technology. The network is teaching us, Vale explained. Not just giving us information, but evolving our ability to process it. We're becoming something new. Or something very old, a gravelly voice interrupted. An elderly man stepped from a side passage, his weathered face set in hard lines. Something that should have stayed buried. Dr. Marcus Kane, Vale introduced him, though her tone had cooled. Our leading xenoarchaeologist. He's been resistant to the changes. Kane's laugh was bitter. Resistant? I'm trying to prevent the extinction of humanity as we know it. He turned to Nyx. You opened this door, Commander. Did you ever stop to ask why the architects disappeared? Why they left their precious network dormant? Before Nyx could respond, alarms blared throughout the colony. Declan's scanner screamed with new readings. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace, he reported. Military signatures. Not ours. Vale's eyes went distant, accessing the network. The Centauri Confederation. They've detected the activations. They're afraid. They should be, Kane muttered. Nyx's comm crackled. Commander. Priya's voice was urgent. 6 Centauri dreadnoughts just appeared. They're charging weapons. Get to the shuttle, Nyx ordered Declan. To Vale. Can your defenses hold? We don't need them to. Vale raised her hands, and the air itself seemed to ripple. Throughout the colony, awakened humans paused in perfect synchronization. Above them, the Centauri ships fired. Massive energy beams lanced toward the colony, and stopped, caught in shimmering fields of impossible physics. The network defends its own, Vale said calmly. But we don't seek conflict. Her eyes closed in concentration. On Nyx's comm, Priya reported in awe. Commander, their weapons, they're just dissolving, breaking down at the molecular level. King grabbed Nyx's arm. Don't you see? This power, this technology, it's too much. We're not ready. The choice isn't yours, Vale countered. The evolution has begun. The only question is whether humanity will embrace it united or tear itself apart in fear. A new presence filled Nyx's mind. Echo, stronger now. There is more at stake than human advancement. The network was not created solely to uplift. It was created to prepare. Prepare for what? Nyx demanded. Images flooded her consciousness, Vast dark spaces between galaxies, ancient threats sleeping in the void, the real reason the architects had seeded their technology across the cosmos. "They're coming," Kane whispered, and Nix realized he was seeing it too, the danger the architects had fled from. "That's why the network is activating now. They're coming, and we're not ready." Vale's expression was grim. "Then we must get ready. Quickly." Above them, the Centauri ships retreated, their weapons reduced to inert metal. But Nix barely noticed. Her mind was filled with the knowledge of what lurked in the darkness between stars, ancient intelligences that consumed civilizations that had hunted the architects to extinction. The network wasn't just an inheritance. It was a warning. And a weapon. "How long?" she asked Echo. "They have already begun to stir," the AI replied. "Months, perhaps. No more than a year." Nix looked at her companions. Vale with her evolved certainty, Kane with his justified fears, Declan with his questioning science. Humanity stood on a precipice, forced to evolve or face extinction. And she had started it all with a single touch. "Then we have work to do," she said. "Contact Fleet Command. Tell them everything." She paused. "And get me a secure channel to the Centauri leadership. If humanity is going to survive what's coming, we need to stand together." As if in answer, the artifacts pulsed, their light reaching across human space like beacons in the night. The next phase had begun. And this time, the stakes were galactic. The war room aboard the TSV Horizon Seeker had never felt so crowded. Holographic representatives from Earth, Mars, and the major colonies flickered around the table, their faces illuminated by the stellar map displaying activated network nodes. In the center, a dark mass crept across the void between galaxies, its movements tracked by ancient sensors finally awakened. 3 months, Admiral Zhou's projection stated grimly. That's how long until first contact with the entity. The architects called them the Voidborn. Devourers of light, Kane added from his corner. He'd insisted on joining the conference, despite his continued resistance to network integration. They consume not just matter and energy, but consciousness itself. Nick stood at the head of the table, watching the darkness spread. Since the Centauri incident 2 weeks ago, the pace of network activation had accelerated. Nearly 30% of humanity had undergone the change, their minds linked to the ancient system. But it wasn't happening fast enough. The architects fought them for millennia, she explained, drawing on knowledge that pulsed through her enhanced consciousness. They created the network not just as a weapon, but as a way to preserve their civilization's knowledge before the end. And now it's our turn, Vale's hologram added. The director had become something of a leader among the enhanced, her connection to the network deeper than most. But we have an advantage they didn't. We know what's coming. Captain Zara Chin of the Centauri Confederation spoke up, her military uniform pristine despite the crisis. My people are still resistant to integration. After witnessing what the network did to our weapons, many see it as a threat rather than salvation. Then they'll die, Kane said bluntly. We all will. The Voidborn can't be fought with conventional weapons. The architects tried that. Failed. Declan, who had been quietly analyzing data streams, looked up. But the network isn't just a weapon system, is it? The quantum resonance pattern suggests something more fundamental. Correct. Echo's voice filled the room. The network was designed to alter reality itself, to change the fundamental rules of space-time within its sphere of influence. But such power requires unity of purpose. Connection. Admiral Zhou's hologram flickered as he leaned forward. You're talking about changing the laws of physics? We're talking about evolution on a cosmic scale, Vale answered. The architects found a way to transcend physical limitations by linking consciousness across space-time. But it only works if enough minds are connected, working in harmony. Nix felt the truth of it resonating through her enhanced awareness. That's why the integration has to be voluntary. Forced connections create discord in the network, weakening its effect. And that's the problem, isn't it? Kane pushed away from his corner. You're asking humanity to willingly surrender its individuality, its very nature, on the promise of protection from a threat we can barely comprehend. Not surrender, Nix corrected. Transform. What we're becoming, it's not less human, it's more. We're reaching the potential the architects saw in us. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. On the stellar map, the dark mass crept closer. Suddenly, proximity alarms blared. Priya's voice cut through the chaos. Multiple quantum ruptures detected. Something's coming through. The ship shuddered as space itself tore open. Through the viewport, they watched in horror as vast shapes emerged, crystalline structures that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved with impossible grace, their surfaces rippling with patterns that hurt to look at. "Scout vessels," Echo announced. "The Voidborn send them ahead to prepare their hunting grounds." The crystalline ships approached Proxima Colony, their purpose clear. But this time, humanity wasn't helpless. Vale's eyes glowed with network energy. Across human space, millions of enhanced minds joined together, their consciousness flowing through the ancient system. Nyx felt the power build, reality itself bending to their collective will. The scouts stopped, caught in fields of altered physics. Their crystalline forms began to crack as space itself rejected their existence. "Now you understand," Echo said quietly. "This is what the network truly offers, the power to rewrite the rules of existence itself. But only if you are united. Only if you are whole." The scouts shattered, their fragments dissolving into quantum foam. But everyone knew this was just the beginning. Admiral Zhou's hologram straightened. "How long until the main force arrives?" 11 weeks, Declan reported. "Maybe less now that their scouts are gone." "Then we have 11 weeks to unite humanity," Nyx said. "To convince everyone that evolution isn't just an option, it's survival." Kane laughed bitterly. "And if we succeed? If we all transform? What then? What do we become?" Vale smiled, her form beginning to shimmer with barely contained energy. "Something new. Something that can stand against the dark." She turned to Nyx. "The architects chose well when they made you first. You understand what has to happen next." Nyx nodded. The path ahead was clear, though it terrified her. Humanity would have to take a leap into the unknown, trusting that what they evolved into would still carry the essence of what they had been. "Send word to every colony, every settlement," she ordered. "Tell them what we saw here today. Tell them what's coming. And tell them we have a choice. Evolve together or die alone." The darkness between stars grew deeper, but now humanity had a light to fight it with. The only question was whether they could learn to shine in time. The final countdown came not with a bang, but with a whisper. 10 billion minds linked through the network felt the Voidborn's approach, a vast darkness that consumed light, life, and reality itself. In the 3 months since the scout ship's appearance, humanity had changed more than it had in 10,000 years of evolution. Nyx stood on the observation deck of Proxima Colony, watching the enhanced population below. Their forms flickered with contained energy, physical matter struggling to contain evolved consciousness. Even Kane had finally accepted integration, though he insisted on maintaining his skepticism even through the network link. 93%, Declan reported, his own form shimming slightly as he consulted data streams only enhanced minds could perceive. "That's our current integration rate across all colonies." "Not enough," Vale said, her presence more energy than matter now. The architects needed near-perfect unity to hold back the Voidborn, and still they failed. "The architects fought alone," Echo reminded them. "You have their knowledge, their technology, and something they never possessed, human adaptability." Through the viewport, space rippled. The Horizon Seeker hung in high orbit, its hull now transformed by network energy into something that defied conventional physics. Admiral Zhou's fleet had undergone similar changes, their weapons replaced by systems that could alter reality itself. "They're here," Priya's voice echoed through physical and mental space simultaneously. Multiple quantum ruptures detecting. Massive scale. The void between stars turned darker than dark. Reality cracked like ice on a frozen lake, and through those cracks came the Voidborn. Their true forms defied description, vast geometries of anti-light that consumed everything they touched. Space itself seemed to scream at their presence. "All enhanced, link to your assigned nodes," Zhou commanded through the network. "Conventional forces fall back to secondary positions." Nyx felt billions of minds connecting, their consciousness flowing through the ancient network. The architect's knowledge merged with human intuition, creating something entirely new. She stood at a crucial junction point, helping direct the flow of shared thought and power. The Voidborn attacked without warning or mercy. Reality began to unravel wherever they touched. Stars dimmed, matter dissolved, and the quantum fabric of space itself started to fray. But humanity was ready. They led the first counterattack, coordinating 1 billion enhanced minds to rewrite physical laws in a spreading wave. Where darkness sought to consume, they created new rules that rejected the Voidborn's very existence. Light became solid, thought became energy, and human consciousness reshaped reality itself. The Voidborn recoiled, but didn't retreat. They consumed countless civilizations, destroyed galaxies. They would not be denied. "They're adapting," Kane warned, his scientific mind analyzing the enemy's response. These beings evolved to consume reality itself. They won't be easily restricted by new physics. He was right. The Voidborn pushed back, their darkness spreading faster than humanity's light. The network is destabilizing, Echo reported. Too much discord, too many unintegrated minds. Nyx felt it. The 7% of humanity that remained unconnected created gaps in their defense, weaknesses the Voidborn could exploit. They needed perfect unity, but forcing integration would only create more discord. Then she understood. We're fighting the wrong way, she said, her revelation spreading through the network. The architects tried to reject the Voidborn, to create barriers against them. That's why they failed. What are you suggesting? Joe demanded. We embrace the void. We take it into ourselves and transform it, just as the network transformed us. Not barriers, transcendence. They'll caught the concept, her consciousness resonating with the idea, using human adaptability to evolve beyond the battle entirely. Through their shared awareness, Nyx felt Kane's scientific skepticism war with his growing understanding. It's insane, he said. Beautiful, but insane. It might destroy us all. We're already destroying ourselves by remaining divided, Nyx replied. Unity doesn't mean losing ourselves. It means becoming our true selves. Understanding rippled through the network. Across human space, the enhanced population shifted their focus. Instead of fighting darkness, they became light. Instead of rewriting reality, they transcended it. The Voidborn faltered, confronted with something they'd never encountered, a prey that chose to evolve rather than fight, to transform rather than resist. In that moment, the final barriers fell. The remaining 7% of humanity, witnessing the beauty of true unity, chose to join the network. 10 billion minds became one mind, yet each remained uniquely itself. Reality shifted. The laws of physics rewrote themselves. And humanity became something new, not by force or fear, but by choice. The Voidborn, for the first time in their ancient existence, retreated. Not from weapons or walls, but from the light of unified consciousness that offered transformation instead of destruction. In the silence that followed, Nyx stood with her companions, Vale, Kane, Declan, Joe, all the others who had helped guide humanity to this moment. Their forms were energy now, consciousness given shape by choice rather than necessity. What are we? Kane wondered, his skepticism finally transformed into awe. We are what comes next, Vale answered. The first children of the network, but not the last. Through their shared awareness, they felt other species across the galaxy witnessing what humanity had accomplished. The network was spreading, offering the same choice to all conscious beings, remain as they were, or evolve into something greater. The architects didn't fail, Echo said softly. They succeeded through you. Through humanity's unique ability to adapt, to change, to become more than they were. Nyx looked out at the stars, seeing them not with eyes, but with transformed awareness. The darkness between them was no longer empty. It was filled with potential, with consciousness, with light. We should send a message, she said, to everything out there that can hear us. Tell them what we've learned. Through the network,